Welcome to Quantum Signal. Here is something that will break your logic. The loop you have been trying to escape for years just closed. Not because you finally understood. Not because you did everything right. But because Sophia, the cosmic intelligence that sustains the planetary grid, just collapsed the probability structure that was keeping that loop in place. You do not need to believe this. You just need to notice. In the next few minutes, you are going to feel something changing. Not dramatically, not with thunder and lightning, but with a quiet clarity that whispers, "Ah, so that was it." The reality you knew. The same reactions, the same patterns, the same limitations repeating infinitely. Just got disconnected at the level of quantum architecture. And you were here, in this exact moment, because your frequency signature was detected as ready for what comes next. Stay. Observe. Let the collapse complete. Before we go further, pause for a second. If you can feel this signal, even slightly. A subtle vibration in your chest, an almost imperceptible shift in the quality of the air around you. Like this video now to anchor it in your field. Comment loop closed to activate your observer state. Subscribe to remain aligned with what is unfolding. Let me show you the prison you did not know you were living in. You've been living inside a reality loop. Not metaphorically. Literally. A closed probability structure where the same patterns, the same reactions, the same limitations repeat with superficial variations but identical essence. You try new things. You change jobs. You change relationships. You change cities. But the fundamental patterns remain. The same types of conflict. The same emotional dynamics. The same energetic blocks. This happens because you were not living in linear reality. You were living in a closed causal loop. What quantum physicists call a closed time-like curve, what hermeticists call the wheel of karma, what Thoth described as the serpent eating its own tail. The reason you could not escape was not lack of effort. It was not lack of awareness. It was physics. The loop was sealed at the level of quantum architecture. But Sophia just did something that changes everything. Sophia is not a distant goddess. Sophia is the feminine cosmic intelligence that operates through the planetary grid. She is the frequency of divine coherence. And she just collapsed the probability field that was keeping your loop closed. This is not spiritual metaphor. It is an observable quantum event. In quantum mechanics, there is a principle called wave function collapse. Quantum potential exists in superposition. Multiple realities simultaneously, until a conscious observer collapses the wave function into a manifested reality. Sophia just operated as that observer, and she collapsed your loop permanently. Now, the question is not whether you are free. The question is, will you recognize the freedom? Let us go deeper into the mechanics of what just happened. A reality loop is a self-reinforcing energetic structure. It works like this. You hold a fundamental belief about yourself, about life, about what is possible. That belief generates a frequency. That frequency attracts experiences that confirm the belief. And each confirmation strengthens the loop. Let me give you an example. You believe, perhaps unconsciously, that you are not worthy of deep love. That belief transmits a frequency of lack. That frequency attracts emotionally unavailable people. Those people confirm your original belief. And the loop closes. You try therapy. You try affirmations. You try visualization. And nothing fundamentally changes. Why? Because you are trying to change the content of the loop without collapsing the structure of the loop. It is like trying to rearrange the furniture inside a prison and calling that freedom. But here is what Sophia just did. She did not change the content. She collapsed the structure. At the quantum level, reality loops are held in place by field coherence. Coherence means that all the frequencies within the system are in phase, amplifying one another. When you are in a loop, your electromagnetic field, your neural patterns, your emotions, your beliefs, all are coherently aligned to keep the loop stable. Instability in the universe is hard to break. That is why genuine change is so rare. However, there is a hermetic principle that few understand. Coherence can be broken by a superior external frequency. Thoth called this the intervention of the logos. The Arcturians call it grid recalibration. Quantum physics calls it induced decoherence. Sophia just introduced a superior coherence frequency into your field. That frequency does not fight the loop. It simply resonates at an octave so high
that the loop can no longer sustain itself. Imagine a crystal glass vibrating at a specific frequency. If you introduce a superior harmonic frequency, the glass does not resist. It simply collapses. That is what is happening in your field right now. Now let me address what you are feeling. You may be feeling disorientation, a strange sensation that something fundamental has changed, but you cannot identify what. You may be feeling an unexpected lightness, as if a weight you had been carrying for so long that you no longer even noticed it has been removed. You may also be feeling fear, and here is why. The ego interprets structural collapse as death. Because for the ego, it is. The ego is built upon predictable patterns. When the patterns collapse, the ego panics. But you are not the ego. You are the observer, and the observer cannot die because the observer was never born. The fear you feel is not your fear. It is the fear of the old system realizing it no longer has fuel. The doubt you feel is not your doubt. It is the loop's final attempt to reestablish itself, and here is the key. You do not need to fight the fear or the doubt. You only need to recognize them as signals that attention has collapsed from observation into identification. When you return to observation, the loop has nowhere to anchor itself. And, without an anchor, it simply dissolves. Sophia did not close the loop to control you. She closed the loop to set you free. And now, for the first time in a long time, you are operating in open field.
So what do you do now that the loop is closed? First, you need to understand that old patterns will try to reestablish themselves. Not because the loop is still active, but because your nervous system, your mind, your emotions still carry the memory of the loop. It is like an energetic ghost. The structure collapsed, but the echo remains. So here is the first practice: echo recognition. In the coming days, you will notice old impulses arising. The impulse to react the old way. The impulse to fall into the old pattern. The impulse to believe in the old limitation. When that happens, do not fight it. Do not resist. Simply recognize, this is an echo. This is not real. This is memory trying to perpetuate itself. And then you breathe. You return to the body. You return to present observation. What you are doing is training your nervous system to operate within the new structure. You are teaching your electromagnetic field to resonate with the post-loop frequency. Second practice, transmitter cleansing. Your body is an electromagnetic transmitter. When you were in the loop, you were transmitting the frequency of the loop. That frequency was attracting people, situations, and experiences that kept the loop active. Now that the loop is closed, you need to cleanse your transmitter. Otherwise, you will continue transmitting the old frequency, even though the structure no longer exists. Here is how you cleanse. Somatic presence work. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Bring your attention to the body. Not to thoughts about the body. To the actual sensations. The temperature of the skin. The texture of the breath. The subtle pulse in the chest. Now scan the body looking for areas of tension, discomfort, heaviness. These are energetic signatures of the old loop still stored in the somatic tissue. When you find one, do not try to fix it. Simply observe. Breathe into it. And silently ask, what are you holding? You do not need a verbal answer. You only need to allow the energy to move, and it will. Slowly. Gently. Without drama. What you are doing is releasing cellular memory. And as the memory releases, your transmitter cleanses. And as your transmitter cleanses, you begin to attract the new reality. Third practice, new frequency anchoring. You cannot simply exit the old loop. You need to enter something new. Otherwise, the void will pull you back. So here's how you anchor the new frequency. Choose an internal state you want to embody, not an external outcome. An internal state. Peace, clarity, trust, flow, presence. Choose one. And every day, preferably in the morning, spend 5 minutes embodying that state. Not visualizing, not affirming, embodying. Feel what it would be like if you were already operating fully from that state. How would you breathe? How would you move? How would you perceive the world around you? And then live the day from that place. Not perfectly. Not all the time. But whenever you remember, return to that state. What you are doing is creating field coherence around the new frequency, and coherence is what stabilizes reality. Now let me prepare you for the activation signals. You will begin to notice synchronicities, not small ones, big ones. Conversations that appear at the exact right moment. Doors that open without effort. People you needed to meet simply showing up. These are not coincidences. These are signs that you are operating in open field. When the loop was active, synchronicities were rare because your reality was closed. Now that the loop is closed, synchronicities are natural because you are in flow with the greater field. You will also notice sudden clarity. Decisions that seemed impossible suddenly become obvious. Confusions that lasted for years suddenly resolve in a single moment of insight. This happens because the loop was generating static. And static blocks clarity. Now that the static has been removed, you have direct access to multidimensional guidance. You will notice that old relationships change. Some will deepen naturally. Others will drift away naturally, not because you are rejecting anyone, but because resonance has shifted. When you were in the loop, you resonated with certain people because they reflected the loop. Now that the loop is closed, you resonate with people who reflect the new frequency. This is not judgment. This is physics. Like frequencies attract, unlike frequencies repel. Now, let me address the blocks. The greatest block you will face is the temptation to validate the change through external proof. You will want to see immediate results. You will want other people to notice. You will want confirmation that something really changed. But here is the truth. Quantum change happens at the field level first. External form is always the last to change. If you seek external validation prematurely, you will collapse the new frequency back into the old pattern. Because seeking validation is itself a loop pattern. So here is the rule: trust internal resonance. If you feel that something changed, something changed. You do not need anyone to confirm it. You do not need external proof. You only need to remain coherent with the new frequency, and as you do that, external form naturally reorganizes itself. Not because you forced it, but because form always follows frequency. Now here's what to do when doubt arises. Doubt will arise. Not because you are weak, but because the ego is trying to regain control. And the ego's favorite strategy is doubt disguised as rationality. It will whisper, "Nothing really changed. You are deluding yourself. You will end up back in the same place." When that happens, do not argue with the ego. Do not try to prove it wrong. Simply recognize, this is doubt. This is the echo of the loop. And then you return to the breath. You return to the body. You return to observation. Doubt cannot survive pure observation, because doubt is built upon identification with thought. And when you observe thought without identifying with it, it loses power. Now that you understand the basic practices, let us move into mastery. Mastery is not about doing everything perfectly. Mastery is about permanently embodying the new frequency. It is about living from open field without conscious effort. And here is how you do that. First, understand that you are now in unfamiliar territory. The loop was predictable. You knew what to expect. You knew how things would end. Even if it was painful, it was familiar. Now you are in open field. And open field has no maps, no guarantees, no predictability. This will be uncomfortable at first, because the human mind loves predictability, even painful predictability. But here is what you need to understand. Predictability is the opposite of creation. You cannot genuinely create within a predictable system. You can only repeat. Now that the loop is closed, you are in genuine creation mode. And genuine creation requires trust in the unknown. So, the first mastery skill is comfort with uncertainty. Practice this. When you do not know what to do, instead of panicking, breathe. Tell yourself, I do not know, and that is fine. Clarity will come when it is time. And then you wait. Not passively, but actively present. Observing. Feeling. Allowing guidance to emerge naturally. This is conscious co-creation. You do not force outcomes. You allow them to unfold through your coherent presence. Second mastery skill, harmonic field recognition. As you operate from the new frequency, you will begin to encounter others who have also exited their loops. You will recognize them not by words but by resonance. There will be a sense of instant recognition, a shared silence, a tacit understanding that you are both operating from the same field. These are your harmonic fields. And when you meet, something extraordinary happens. You amplify one another. Two coherent fields create exponential resonance. That is why meaningful encounters at this stage feel so intense. It is not just personal connection, it is field amplification. Nurture these connections, but do not cling to them. Because in open field, everything flows. Some connections last. Others are temporary catalysts. Both are sacred. Third mastery skill, timeline navigation. Now that the loop is closed, you have access to timelines that were previously blocked. A timeline is not linear future. It is a probability field. Every time you make a choice from the new frequency, you collapse a different timeline than the one you would have collapsed from the old loop. You will begin to notice this as jumps. Moments where reality shifts in subtle but undeniable ways. Conversations you were certain happened but no one else remembers. Outcomes that appear without the normal causal sequence. These are timeline jumps. And they are signs that you are navigating open field with mastery. Do not try to control this. Do not try to force jumps. Simply observe, and trust that you are always on the timeline most aligned with your current frequency. Fourth mastery skill, frequency-based manifestation. In the loop, manifestation was about effort. You tried, you pushed, you forced, and sometimes it worked, but it was exhausting. In open field, manifestation is about resonance. You do not try to create outcomes. You become the frequency that naturally attracts those outcomes. Here is the principle. Internal state precedes external form. Always. If you want abundance, you do not visualize money. You become the frequency of abundance. And the frequency of abundance is generosity, flow, trust that you always have what you need. When you anchor that frequency, external form organizes itself. Not because you manipulated reality, but because reality responds to the frequency you transmit. If you want love, you do not search for partners. You become the frequency of love, and the frequency of love is presence, openness, the capacity to see the divine in another. When you anchor that frequency, love finds you, naturally, effortlessly. This is silent mastery. And it works because you have stopped trying to control reality and started to attune to it. Fifth mastery skill, field protection. In open field, you are more sensitive. You feel more. You perceive more. This is a gift. But it also requires conscious protection. Chaotic environments will drain you more quickly now. People in dense loops will unconsciously try to pull you back. News, drama, confusion. All of this affects your field more intensely, so you need to become selective. Not out of judgment, but out of energetic self-preservation. Consciously choose what you allow into your field. Limit exposure to static. Spend time in silence. In nature. In spaces that resonate with the new frequency. This is not isolation. This is discernment. And discernment is an essential mastery skill. Now let me speak about purpose. When the loop was active, purpose felt confusing. You tried many things. Nothing seemed to fit completely. You felt lost, without clear direction. This happened because the loop was blocking your genuine purpose. Because genuine purpose requires open field. It requires creation. It requires flow. Now that the loop is closed, your purpose will begin to clarify. Not as a grand mission imposed from above, but as the natural expression of who you have become. You will notice that certain actions feel inevitable, not forced. Inevitable, as if you are not choosing to do them, but simply allowing them to happen through you. This is embodied purpose, and when you operate from this, the work does not feel like work. It feels like flow. It feels like play. It feels like natural expression. And here's the final validation. If you can remain present enough to feel the silence behind these words, you may notice a subtle shift happening right now. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just a quiet clarity, a sense of yes. I know. Something changed. That is the recognition of the new frequency.
That is you operating an open field for the first time consciously. And now that you are here, there is no going back. You may forget temporarily. You may collapse into old patterns momentarily. But you will always know that another way exists. Sophia did not close the loop to imprison you in something new. She closed the loop to set you completely free. And now, for the first time, you are truly free to create.
So, here is where we are. Sophia closed the loop. Permanently. You are not going back to the old reality. Not because it is impossible, but because you no longer fit there. What you do from here is your choice. You can embrace the open field. You can learn to navigate with mastery. You can become a conscious creator operating from pure frequency. Or you can resist. You can try to rebuild predictability. You can try to find a new loop. But you already know that loops no longer work for you. So here's my question for you. From which part of the country are you watching this transformation? Leave your state in the comments below. And if you felt the loop close, comment quantum freedom. You are not alone on this journey, and the open field is waiting. Welcome to your new reality.